Hey, hey, hey. It's your boy Nate. I read books because reading is sexy, and if you're not reading, you're not sexy. Here to do the April monthly wrap-up. Y'all, my saddest month of the year so far. And I know it's only, like, we're only a quarter of the way through the month. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I know we're only a quarter of the way through the year, but I'm just like, oh, it's okay. Relax. It's okay. Calm down. But a part of me is like, we're already a quarter of the way through the year? But let's see here. Oh, okay, not that bad. Also, I love just like keeping an index of all the books and movies I've watched. Makes it a lot clearer for me here. Anyway, I read 6 books in the month of April, but I'm on the cusp of finishing 3 other books, which will find themselves in the month of May. So let's get through this. First book I finished in the month of April is Exit Zero by Marie-Helene Bertino. I was a big fan of Beautyland, incredible. Exit Zero is a collection of short stories in the same humor, prose style, and wit and wackiness of Beautyland, just done in tighter refrains. There's a woman trapped in a rerun. There's unicorns. Boo-hoo ghosts. They're just these like really fun, fantastical stories that remind me a lot of the film Amelie. It's that same like fun wit and whimsy that I don't think we find enough in literature, because I think a part of that comes with waves of like, I want to say in the Miranda July new optimism refrain, where I'm so tired of the self-loathing individual, depressed woman moving. I just like this as a break from all of that. I think this is a tough place to start for people who haven't read Bertino, because she's a very particular writer, and I don't know if it actually works for some people, is what I found through other reviews on Goodreads and BookTube. Because it's odd, it's strange, and so I feel like Bertino is acquired taste, much like Miranda July. If you don't like that, then I think you'd have a hard time with this, but this totally worked for me. All the short stories are crisp, sharp, just really nice to levy out through the days, just like to read a short story before bed or 1 in the morning or in between your other bigger reads. It's already out by FSG. Next book I read was On the Calculation of Volume 1 by Salvej Balle. This is translated from the Danish by Barbara Havland. I don't know what y'all were on about, honestly. This actually put me in a slump, even though it's like quite small. It's about a woman who relives November 18th, and through that she has these really meditative, circling thoughts around life, death, mundanity of life, what is one to do, relationships. She's trapped in this day with her husband. What it feels like, essentially, is a pandemic book. This feels like it was written out of the idea of the pandemic where every day felt the same. But y'all, if you've watched Groundhog Day, this is just mediocre at best. I feel like everything that is questioned in here is already tried and true in Groundhog Day and more. I just feel like this spanning out in like 7 different volumes, Groundhog Day does it in like an hour and something minutes. So will I pick up the 2nd volume? Maybe, if someone sends it to me, but yeah, I'm gonna stop after this because I really don't see what the big deal is. But this is to say, for people who haven't watched Groundhog Day, if you want Groundhog Day in lit fic fashion, here you are. But yeah, I thought this was just fine. Next up I did a poetry collection by Vincent Katz. This is Daffodil. This feels really heavy with the New York school of poets. I'm thinking like Frank O'Hara, but also new sincerity out of like Ben Lerner. This collection fixes itself, This collection fixes itself on the reality of life, asking really direct questions, but there are strong poetic formats to it where there's intense structure to everything and rhythm and how everything is laid out. But they're really short. Some of them are just like yay big. And yeah, just like really nice to finish in an afternoon. This feels like one of those poetry books where you see it at the library and you're like, you know what? I have 20, 30 minutes. Let me kill it by reading this book. And yeah, it's such a joy that you have a book like that from time to time. Just a book to kill the time with. But here, An Air of Memories. An air of memories, of garments, decades, guarded against pain, forthcoming at moment. The day holds nothing back. I love that. There's this airy quality, this openness with an air of memories. I think it's the A at the beginning with A. But then it cuts itself with consonants, with garments, decades, that feel soft and hard at the same time. Guarded against pain. And that is just so beautiful. Guarded against pain. You have the hard G there, but then open with against, and then softens with pain. That it's just gap. G-A-P. There's this great sense of control that he has with language to make you really stop and feel out what he's trying to say. With this collection, I read it in my head, but now reading it out loud, it does something else. And that's the beauty of poetry. I think flat on the page, sure, it does something, but when you read it out loud, you realize that poetry is oral storytelling and things are meant to be read out loud. And so I think that's always important. Again, like Exit Zero, I think is just something really interesting when you read it out loud versus just like flat on the page. It does something different. Here's another one called Two Clouds. I saw these two clouds and I wanted to see them with you. They were particular clouds, almost exploding in a bright sky. Now the entire sky is covered and it is windy and cold. Really beautiful, soft, quiet. They're the kind of poems that have a keen, observant eye during the odd hours of a city where there should be people, but there are no people, either because everyone's gone to work and it's a Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. and you're like, is the city meant for me, just for me, or am I sharing it? Anyway, lovely collection. Guys, I've now read all of Han Kang's translated works. I did The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Does anyone want a Han Kang tier list? I only feel weird about it because she has a lot more other work and my Korean's not that great. So I'm just like, I just feel wrong doing a tier list when, I don't know, there's like other books that haven't been translated yet. I want to say Korea is still a conservative country where like the rules of first son and first daughter matter a lot. The duties of a wife, domestic duties, like the cooking and the cleaning and all of that, still pretty vehemently apparent. So here's a woman trapped in a marriage as such. She gives up by wanting to become a vegetarian. So much so that she eventually wants to become a tree. This feels very different from the other Han Kang books because I feel like the other ones exist in the strong first-person singular of I. It's always I that Han Kang writes in, I think because when you're reading from I, you situate yourself within the I, and so you feel the pains of the characters much more. Here it's distant, and it makes sense that it's distant because what she's doing is she's observing the female body, the microaggressions it encounters, male eyes through an otherness. We also see this in other Han Kang books, this sort of like othering, displacing the body in that way. And so yeah, this is just a different mechanism of exploring the body and its hurts and pains. Yeah, I think out of all the books, her most sensual one. I was quite surprised by some of the sex scenes in this one. But yeah, it was still very interesting. How does it rank in my favorites of Han Kang? I don't know. Human Act's still my favorite, but she's an incredibly interesting writer. I think she's doing interesting things. Ooh, I wanted to make a note that this was originally based on a short story and then later expanded, but it was published in 2007, where I think like the hurts of women and sort of the mumblings of like a Me Too movement occurring still very early. And so the issues here seem so blasé now, but I think they still are quite sound, especially today, but back then even more sound. So if there are issues about like the patriarchy and equal rights between men and women and all of that, vehemently aggressive in 2007 from a Westerner's perspective, but these ideals and such about the duties of women still exists today. But you know, things are changing. I think the younger generation are thinking differently. Less people want to have children, and I think that's the same really across the world. Expensive housing, wanting to start a family, all of that really hard to do in a time like this. Yeah, I find her work to just be compelling still. Okay, next up I read Johnno by David Malouf. This was published in 1975. It looks at upper-class Brisbane, and yeah, I was just really struck by this cover, first off. Found in my hometown for $3.97. If anyone must know, I just love that so much. Anyway, it's semi-autobiographical. It's about Dante, who goes back home to the funeral and the death of his father, And while doing so, he goes through a box of memories and comes across this longtime friend named Johnno. It's about people changing. It's very sentimental of that time where you're in high school as a senior and you're graduating and people are like going to different universities or like not going to universities, taking on jobs, doing these different things, moving to cities, and you realize that as you are all changing, the world is changing as well. Upon all of this, you realize how individuals change and you fidget and throw tantrums about whether or not you have to change with them, but also accepting change and the changes of individuals and living with that change. It's about that. It's about acceptance. It's about tolerance and the tolerances of change. You start to realize that perhaps you've lived in your old world for too long. Well, a person like Johnno is beyond you, almost unreachable to sort of a saint-like degree, because the book then festers in this almost very, very strong romance, and it's given, you know, them gay vibes, which are sweet and beautiful, but it never really gets there. But you know it's there. Part of the fun work is unearthing that and seeing how much you love your friend, no matter how many times they've changed as a person, and also a glance of like how you've changed. Cute, sweet, hard 3 stars for me, but it does what it needs to do. I thought this was fine. Happy to do more Australian lit, which brings me to my next read. My next book is A Language of Limbs by Dylin Hardcastle. This was originally published last year in June, but it's getting a US edition by Dutton in June of this year. It's about 2 limbs born in the same place and how they come together. So it is a look at how relationships are formed, but through the lens of like body parts, how they coalesce. It's really intimate in its sexual discovery, plays with form in that way, and then there's inserts of poetry as well. But it is really, really within this like strong adolescent love that carries the book. I was really harsh on this book while I was reading it because I was just like, oh god, it's like giving strong YA vibes, but it struggles with that debut book while also trying to kill all your darlings. Hardcastle does not let up. They just keep everything in the book. And what did I say? I said it better in my review than I'll say it here, so I'm just gonna read it. You can't blame a young thing for how... miss... Whoopsies. No, I didn't, y'all. It is not better. I made a typo. First line I wrote was, you can't blame a young thing for how it moves, let alone how it feels. To be at the mouth of adulthood is to feel everything before feeling becomes reserved for how we stay in the world. And it's all of that. It's those really big feelings. The angst, the anxiety, the loving, the wandering, the sex, all of it. It doesn't let up, and it's totally within its amorous, poetic prose that really carries the book throughout. Until, I'm not going to spoil it, but something big happens, and it's through that I never thought about this in terms of like grief and what love is in grief. The missing tenderness, the wanting of sex of this person who is lost. It gets there. It was beautiful. At that point, I started to forgive the book for all of its needs and wants and festering and trying to be this big, grand feeling that as someone who is far beyond their teens and doesn't very much feel those big feelings anymore, to see someone still have those feelings and to go through those feelings makes me content in a way, because what is that line from Call Me By Your Name where it's like, we rip out so much of ourselves to be cured of things faster, that we go bankrupt by the age of 30 and have less to offer each time we start with someone new. But to make yourself feel nothing, so as not to feel anything. What a waste. And yeah, that's entirely what this book is. It's not wasteful. It spends a lot of time within those feelings, and I have to forgive what a young thing is and what a young thing does in order to reach for all those feelings. Yeah, still very YA to me. I wish I had this when I was a young adult, because I was always looking for things like this. Yeah, I'm glad it exists, or I'm glad it exists for a younger generation so that they can tap into all their feelings. But yeah, I think this is a quick one. Those are all the books I read in April. Let me know what you read in April. As always, let it be known, I'm a Black Rose affiliate. Thank you also to everyone who has used it. It has actually motivated me and like helped this channel out a bit and helped me out a bit, and it's just, thank you. Really, really, thank you. It means a lot. Yeah, so if you enjoyed me talking about any of these books, please consider using my affiliate link downstairs to pick up any of these books or for any of your other bookish needs. And as always, Be well, do good work, keep in touch.